hands down, the crankiest crew, no, the crankiest people I've ever encountered. Hi there, my name is Kevin, and I make honest and to-the-point, narrated trip reports about flights and hotels all over the world. This is episode 128 in business class on Finnair, the 25th airline featured on the channel. Join me for this trip report from hell, beginning in 10 seconds. Welcome to the basement of Helsinki-Vantaa Airport. I had an 8-hour overnight layover, which I spent at the incredibly overpriced Glow Hotel because frankly, saving $20 by staying at a nearby hotel would have cost me an hour's sleep, and that's priceless, no? Anyway, if you'd like to know the exact fare that I paid, as well as my next 5 videos in queue, please check out the description below. I headed upstairs to the check-in hall, but honestly, I just wanted a breath of that good old Finnish air. So I just headed outside and had a coffee out here. By the way, do you by any chance know what ugly puppies and sponsored unbiased reviews have in common? Yes, you guessed it, it's that neither of them exist. If an airline or hotel is paying you or encouraging you in any way to make a video about their product, it's not possible to give a fair review. That's why I keep things as transparent as I can and always tell you how much I paid. Everything you see and hear today are my own personal and honest opinions, and that's because this flight was 100% self-funded. If you support honest content on YouTube and are generally not looking forward to the day when the bots take over, please be sure to give the channel a sub and check out my Patreon in the description below. Y'all are the sponsors of this video, so a big thank you in advance just for stopping by. Alright, airport time, and it is a beautiful one at that. I love Finnair's livery, typeface, color scheme, and overall design philosophy. I think it's one of the few Euro white liveries that actually works, and I love how all of the stark and minimalist design features weave its way throughout the airport. Not having noticed the priority line for security, I went through the normal line, which was fine since it was very efficient. Once through security, I headed straight to the Finnair Lounge for more coffee. The lounge was chaotic. The design was a bit wonky, and overall I think it just ended up underutilizing the space, which was at this point already too small for the number of passengers that passed through. Food offerings were a bit basic as well. Scrambled eggs with hot dogs, anyone? At least the coffee was decent, and since I slept in the airport, I didn't really spend that much time here before having to go take a look around and head to the gate. On my way to the gate, I checked out the Marimekko store, as one does, looked at the price tags, and kept moving. In case you didn't know, Marimekko is the design house behind Finnair's textiles and some of their serveware. As we head to the gate to get our first glimpse of our beautiful A350, allow me to give you a brief disclaimer. There are many airlines that do not allow filming on board. You've seen it in videos before. There are many airlines that do not allow you to have your phone on while taxiing and taking off. You've experienced it before. There are many airlines that don't allow you to attach things like suction cups to their windows. While I think all of those are silly rules, I won't hold it against an airline when reviewing them, nor will I hold it against a crew for enforcing the rules. There are flights and airlines that I've reviewed on this channel already that didn't allow me to do my normal filming routine, and you've never heard me talk about it because it was always done in a very polite and service-oriented manner. Okay, so that groundwork laid, today was very different. Boarding began just a few minutes behind schedule. I'll note, while I was hoping for one of the new interiors, Finnair recently launched a new business class product which frequently flies between Helsinki and Amsterdam. It was just not in the cards today. Their new seat is truly revolutionary because it doesn't recline. It's a fixed shell with a seat and multiple pillows. The reason it appeals to me so much is because the new Finnair seat is essentially what I say in every Singapore Airlines review on how to sit for the most comfortable experience. Today's reverse herringbone seats, though, were still a fantastic product. Today's flight would be taking off 24 minutes late and heading way up there to 43,000 feet for our 2-hour flight down to Amsterdam, where we'd arrive 13 minutes ahead of schedule. As we head down my favorite kind of jet bridge, let me begin with part 1 of the service story. When I boarded, I was greeted by a warm and friendly flight attendant who motioned me towards my seat. Some minutes later, after I was all set up, one of my phones attached to the window with a suction cup mount, the same flight attendant came over with enthusiasm and delight and asked me if I was going to film the takeoff. I said yes, and her eyes lit up in a way that I've seen from many crew, silently saying, "Oh, you like to watch that too?" I distinctly remember her saying, quote, "That is very cool." The reason I remember her saying those exact words is because let's just say she wasn't a young lady and the use of cool stood out a bit. Anyway, part 2 is coming soon. First, let's take a look at this seat. Finnair has 4 A350 layouts, 2 with the old business class and 2 with the new. Today's had 32 seats in a 1-to-1 pattern, featuring the same seat used by a plethora of airlines from Avianca to Cathay Pacific to Air France. As there are no missing windows and no toilets directly behind the last row, there really aren't any seats to avoid, so go wild and sit wherever you want to. I think Finnair made a very wise decision by making their new seats dark blue, since these gray seats, along with the tri-tone gray seat finishings, are a little bit bland. But you can surely say that they match the weather outside. With no overhead bins in the center section and light colors throughout, it was a very fresh feeling cabin, but again, just a little bit sterile. Waiting at the seats were a bottle of water and some economy earbuds. The seat has plenty of storage space, but the cubby to your side is open and would normally be where the headphones for long-haul flights would hang. And I do appreciate that you don't need to contort your arm in any way to access the power plug and USB port. Just below are very easy to use seat controls. Finally, a reading light is up above your shoulder. The armrest is full of surprises. First of all, it lowers so that you can get in and out when your tray table is deployed. And then there's also a separate storage cubby next to it, though this one is a lot smaller than on some other similar seats. The foot cubby is wide and deep enough, providing you for a very good full flat experience, which I'll show you in a bit. The pillow, while soft and fluffy, was clearly not refreshed and was dirty with some sort of hair product on the back of it. In fact, lots of areas around the seat were not really the cleanest. I wouldn't call them filthy by any means, but it did need a very good detailed cleaning. The IFE monitor swings out at the push of a button, and while it gives you more legroom when sleeping, technically you're not supposed to have it deployed during taxi, takeoff, and landing, though no one actually followed that rule. We pushed back, this footage filmed incognito, and then I let the tailcam take over. Alright, part 2 of the story. Before pushback, everything was set up and just fine. My backpack was under the footrest, my phone attached to the window. My charging cable plugged into the phone, but not plugged into the port since most airlines don't allow that during taxi. My iPad on the table next to me, and my headphones wrapped around my knee. The purser doing her final checks, and I need to stress final checks because she walked by me at least a half dozen times. She came over to my seat and at full volume said, quote, "You must take that down now. Nothing is allowed out during takeoff." Me, genuinely confused, motioned towards the flight attendant that I spoke to earlier and mentioned that I told her exactly what I was doing and she said it was great. The purser replied, "I am the purser in charge of this aircraft. Remove it now. Also, your bag cannot be stored there. It must go above. Also, those cannot be on the table. Also, you must hold your headphones in your hand." I replied, "Okay, I'll hold the phone when I'm filming." She refused that as well and said that it needed to be put away. So I was putting everything away. Less than a minute later, we still didn't push back yet. My seatbelt was unfastened, my bag was at my feet and open. I was actively putting things away. And now a quick intermission for the spool up and take off. So I am doing exactly what she asked. She returned, pointed to my neatly wrapped charging cable that was on the table, about to be put away, and said, "Sir, I must tell you again, nothing can be out," attracting multiple passengers' heads to turn in my direction. I truly do not get riled up easily, at all, but I was pissed and replied, "You have eyes. You can literally see me putting everything away. You chose not to mention anything until the last minute. Now, I'm using both of my hands to put everything away. What the hell more do you want me to do?" She walked away, and that was that. Ironically, just after takeoff, there was a message on the IFE letting us know that our phones could be used from gate to gate. Alright, so woosah moment. Onto the IFE, which had a decent selection of movies and could be controlled with a wired remote. Soon after that, breakfast service started. And wouldn't you know it, that jolly and warm purser was serving my aisle. I honestly don't know what her problem was, and why the other flight attendant, who had clearly been around for a while, didn't tell me to remove it from the get-go if I was in fact not allowed to have it. Anyway, hot towels were handed out, which was a nice touch. The tray table deployed, folded in half, and could be unfolded and swiveled around. A continental breakfast was served from a cart. It was fine, kinda boring if I'm honest. The best thing on the tray was the water glass. The Ultima Thule glass, which was originally designed to mark Finnair's first long-haul route to New York's JFK Airport in 1969, and they've been continuously featured on board ever since. The glass is meant to give the impression of melting ice. A brief shot of the bathroom shows nothing too crazy, though I did like the oversized sink. But if you use it while at the gate, make sure to shut the window. The seat converts to a 71-inch or 180-centimeter bed, which provided for a nice surface to get some shut-eye on a longer flight, of course. Throughout the flight, we crossed paths with many aircraft in the busy airspace around Denmark, and the mood lighting was turned on as we began our approach into Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. Just look here for a moment. Amsterdam's airport is nearly the size of Amsterdam. It's incredible how spread out its 7 runways are. We landed in a sea of KLM blue and passed by what will surely be the last sight I'll have of a China Southern A380. I'm editing this video 2 days after they were all retired. We taxied to the gate, and this flight from hell was finally over. And yes, pun fully intended. In case you're not aware, Helsinki's airport code is HEL. The arrival today is the entire reason why I didn't want to check any baggage for my full 3-week trip. And as soon as I got near the baggage hall, it was evident why. In the grand scheme of things, I'm sure this really is just a drop in the bucket, but here are some of the unclaimed bags that just have been sitting here. Alright, on to the flip-flop score. You might be asking, why is the score so high for such a bad experience? And the answer is simply, it was just the service that sucked. Everything else ranged from decent to great. And while my ego wants to give the flight a 12 out of 100, I'm gonna stick to my tried and true system. And plus, I've had a flight that was 10 times worse than this just about a month ago. You'll see that one soon enough. To make sure you don't miss a beat, please support the channel by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. I'll see you next time at the Kimpton de Witt, Amsterdam.